Hello everyone, welcome to the Blabbering Mimic. It's a D&D podcast where two DMs talk about a variety of D&D topics. This is our very first episode, so I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Adam, I am DM1, and my co-host is...
I am DM2, and I am Kris.
Hi Kris, how have you been today?
I've been pretty good, actually. I've only been awake, an hour and a half?
That's fair. I'm quite jealous. I've been up prepping for today, so I've actually got a few topics that I'd like to go over with yourself. See if I can get your opinions on them.
And
Uh,
I am ready. I am excited. We've been talking about doing this for a very, very long time, so I'm
Taking
ac-
the
I'm
plunge.
I'm actually excited to see what you've got brought
Yeah,
forward, because I know I've got a lot of topics that I haven't spoke to you about where we normally would, because I've been
yeah.
saving it for the podcast.
Yeah, it's almost like our day-to-day conversation is kind of being hindered because we've been saving everything for a podcast. But here we are. The first topic I would like to bring up to you is one that I believe you may have a few opinions on. I know
Uh-huh.
I certainly do, and that is the difference between homebrew campaigns and modules. So the actual printed modules,
Hmm.
say Horde of the Dragon Queen or
Yeah.
Curse of Strahd. Now, personally, as a player, I have only ever played one module, and that was, I believe it was The Rise of Tiamat,
Yeah.
which goes into Horde of the Dragon Queen, or vice versa. I'm not entirely sure. I've never actually ran a module. I've ran ones that I've taken from like a subscription service that I've got, which are like one shots and
Yeah.
stuff. Um, so yeah, as a player, personally, I prefer to play in homebrew campaigns. I feel like it gives the DM more breathing space. What
Hmm.
do you think?
See, I'm in the same boat. So, as a player, I've only ever played one not homebrew, sorry, one written module.
Yeah,
Is the starter kit one.
yeah,
My first ever time playing D&D. Um, it was everybody who's playing at the time. It was everybody's first time playing D&D, so
yeah.
it wasn't very good. I had a bad experience. The
That's fair.
No offense to the DM, because it was also his first time. We didn't understand the rules, but obviously you've got your character's movement speed usually is 30 foot
Yeah,
for combat. So outside of combat, we were working in combat rounds and still only going 30 foot, and it made it such a slog.
yeah,
Which is kind
yeah,
of like, I know it shouldn't have, but it's kind of put a bad taste to homebrew. No, I keep saying homebrew to
modules. Yeah,
modules. It's given me a bad taste when I know it shouldn't have.
yeah. No, I
As
know what you
as
mean.
as a as a player, I prefer playing in homebrew, and as a DM, I prefer running homebrew, because, like you say, I feel like you've got more breathing space. Because as a DM running a game at the moment, we've got four players. You're one of them.
Yeah,
It gets wild.
it does. It does get
So
wild.
so we had a bit where your party got arrested, and I
Yeah.
was planning a whole big prison break for you, and you guys decided to join with the bad guy.
Yep.
So, like, if that was in a module, I feel like that's rather constricted, because I could work around that. Whereas a module's
Yeah.
like, this is what they've got in this area, this is what there is to do. I know there is a little bit of freedom, but it doesn't have that same amount.
Yeah.
And then I
No, and
feel, as a player, I feel the same, that, like, if I do this option, how much does
mm,
it restrict what the DM can do, as
yeah.
what he's got is in a book? Using using modules
Mm,
can be great. So, like, we before we got into the campaign we're in now, we had one a while ago before I got moved on to night shift,
yeah.
where the start of it was the death house from the Curse of Strahd. So
Yes, I remember that.
I don't mind taking little snippets out and being like, oh look, here's something fun. But
Yeah.
the death house was in a city that I made. It had my own lore for it. It was just the setting of the death house. So like
Yeah,
I feel taking bits from modules and using them in homebrew can be fantastic.
yeah,
And I bet some modules are great. So I occasionally listen to Arcane Arcade
yes, yeah,
and
yeah.
EDMs modules,
Mm,
and they have a great time. They get the freedom and stuff. But me personally,
yeah.
I don't think it's for me.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. So, well, on like my little bit of experience, my very first time running a game was the starter kit one, the Lost Mines of Phandelver. I believe that's what it was called. I
Yeah,
believe that's the starter kit one.
yeah, it is.
Uh,
That's the one that I played in that left a bit of a sour
yeah.
taste.
So I'm going to be truthfully honest with yourself. I had not heard of D&D up until 2016. I think that's when you introduced me to it.
Where when I was trying to get you to into it, I was like, just please, just watch this, just
Yes.
please.
Yeah. So eventually, I took it up. I watched what you were um trying to show me.
It was Critical Role for anybody who's wondering.
Yeah, it was Critical Role, which I know that has connotations on itself. I personally adore Critical Role, but you know, each to their own on that one. Um, But yeah, so I ended up watching Critical Role, so I took the plunge and I was
Yeah,
like, well, I mean, Matt Mercer can do it. I'm sure I can run a game. And I ran for people who had never even heard of D&D before the beginning to Lost Mines of Phandelver. And very quickly, because A, I didn't know the rules.
yeah,
B, I hated being constricted to what was on the page
yeah.
in front of me. So I kind of just threw that out the window. I used that as like my starting point, and then I ended up playing like a full campaign to which people got to like I believe level 14 to 15.
Is
Eventually, over.
this one I joined part way through?
It is the one you joined partway through with your paladin.
Yes.
Now, obviously that fizzled out. Personally, it was my first experience running a game, playing D&D first of all.
Ah,
So I feel like I got better over time, but the beginning was kind of
I agree because it was my first time actually
mm,
playing properly,
yeah,
and we've had some great moments during that. I think there is there's a part during that we always refer to it, the mansion heist.
the mansion heist. Ah, right? I spent about a week preparing for that mansion heist. I had traps, I had everything. I was like, this is the I don't know the word.
Culmination.
Culmination of all of my D&D expertise over, I believe that was about 8 months into actually playing D&D, and I was like, I've got a pretty good grasp of the rules. I think I know how things are going to go now. Um, and y'all threw it out the window.
Yep. That's what the players do, which is why I
Yeah,
like homebrew because obviously if you did that in a module, there are ways around it, but I find the ways around it are harder to
yeah.
discover.
I commend DMs that can run a module and not feel stuck to the script. I know
One one
it's
100%.
Yeah, I know it's only supposed to be there as like a guideline, and here's a story. Um, However, I don't know. We DM because we're storytellers. We like to
Yes.
tell stories, and we like to come up with these stories. And I feel having it in a book, it's like reading a book to your players.
Yeah.
Um, Now, on the other side of things, I did play um the the Tiamat module. I played a few characters throughout that module, and I'll actually be able to explain why. So, what it is, um, we had a party of 8 originally on that
Oof.
module. Yeah, big one.
That's
Now,
rough DMing, and I know.
yeah, yeah, and then eventually, over time, unfortunately, just due to circumstances, life is the biggest thing that tends to get in the way of D&D.
Yeah.
Um, we whittled it down to like a party of 4. Now the DM that was running it, very good friend of mine. He's a good DM. However, you can tell he started in the older editions. So we started on 5th edition. He started in the older editions, where party composition really mattered.
Yeah.
And what put I guess, a bad taste for me for playing modules was the fact that um, it felt like certain players weren't able to play the characters that they wanted to play
Yeah.
or come up with. Me being one of those people, like I say, I ended up playing a few different characters throughout that one because it felt like party composition really mattered. Now, you and me both, when we're running our 2 games, so you run one week and I run the other,
Yeah.
same group of people,
Yeah.
but
Your campaign has just started. It
yes,
started as a one shot when I had a bit of a bad time. I didn't have the mental energy to run, but I didn't want to cancel for like the 3rd week in a row.
yeah,
So you came in, you ran a one shot,
mhm,
shit happened at the end,
yeah,
which has resulted in obviously
a
it becoming
campaign.
a campaign. And we play with the same group of people, like you say, just me and you have swapped roles.
Yeah, exactly. And we, because we have that freedom of where encounters are kind of up to us, and we can plan our encounters around the party. Apologies, my dog is barking. Um, we plan encounters around the party themselves, or
Yeah.
at least I do. I tend to plan it around. So, like, if there's no healer in our party, because I don't believe there is. Oh no, there is. Our healer just wasn't able to make it our last session.
Yeah.
We're able to put things in to um maybe fill that slot. Whereas I feel, especially with the one that I played, if you don't have the party composition of like your healer, your fighter, your healer, your tank, your DPS,
Yeah.
essentially.
Your standard
Um,
RPG party.
yeah, it it tends to be a bit overbalanced for either like the DM. So we had this section. I don't know if you've ever seen The Rise of Tiamat or Horde of the Dragon Queen. They're like two
I
that go
haven't.
together. So
No, I
there's this
haven't.
section where you go to this, I believe I don't know the world very well, apologies. I know rules when it comes to D&D. I don't actually know too much of the lore, and it was a while ago, but you go to this icy place, and then you drink soup or something like that. You eat the food, you get knocked out, and you're kind of tied up in a pit.
Yep.
And there's these like frogs. They are large frogs. I can't remember what they're called, but they're
Bullywugs?
like, I don't think the bullywugs, because they're not like, they're just big frost frogs. That's all I can put them down to, right? The big frost frogs. They have like this passive thing where if you're in range of them, you take damage, sort of thing. Now, in the module itself, it says that you are stripped of your equipment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was playing a rogue. I was playing an elven rogue called Pockets, who was not built for combat. I built my rogue to be the suave, charismatic fellow
Yeah,
that he is.
the talker, the I know you're not a Stars fan, but the Han Solo.
Yeah, basically. And what it is, he was good at talking and he was good at stealing things. You needed something, he could get it. He knew a guy, or he could find a guy, or he could just find the thing and take it himself.
Yeah.
So in this situation that we're in, we had 2 rogues. So we had me, we had another rogue, a halfling rogue, um, who was the assassin archetype, I believe.
Of
Um,
course, they always
y-
are.
yeah, edgy rogue backstory, but that's a story for another day. And we had a goblin wizard. Now the Goblin Wizard, luckily, his spellcasting focus was keys, and he had all his spells like hidden away, like nobody would be able to find them. So we had the wizard to save us. However, that was a TPK, or it should have been, if our DM didn't realize what was going on and went, "Oh yeah, they've got nothing; they can't help themselves." Like that could have been a TPK. I went down,
Yeah,
the other rogue went down,
yeah.
and the wizard went down. We were all unconscious. Luckily, some hero comes in and saves the day, sort of thing. Which,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I know that trope.
yeah, I don't know if it's like it wasn't set up or anything like that for them to come in, so I don't know if the DM was being merciful that day.
Gone,
But
oops, I've messed up. I
yeah,
will save the party with a ex machina. He is some random hero.
yes, exactly. And it was like, okay, and then I realized I'm gonna have to play a cleric, which got killed off in a cutscene. Might I add, my cleric died in a cutscene, which was infuriating. However,
So,
it was
so when it comes to player deaths,
yeah,
I support player deaths. If a player dies, like I'm not okay. Let me rephrase this because this sounds bad. Player character dies.
yeah. For the player.
I
God forbid
support.
your players die. We
Yeah,
don't want that happening.
I support player character deaths. I support
Yes.
killing player characters, not
Mhm.
maliciously. No, I'm
Yeah.
going to target this player. I don't like this player's character, and I'm going to target them out until they die. Let your players
Yeah.
play what your players want to play.
Exactly.
However, if you are going to kill your players, and Adam will understand this because I've recently just killed him,
Yep.
make it in a situation in which they don't have to die.
Yeah. Where they
So,
have control over, like, if their character is going to die or
yeah.
not.
So you were
In a sense.
unconscious. You got knocked unconscious in combat. You
Yeah.
were rolling your death saves.
Mhm.
I think you got hit when you were on the floor. Auto
Yeah.
crit, auto fail, lost two.
Yeah.
And the party didn't get to you in a time to revive
Yeah.
you that you failed your final death save.
Yeah. Which,
So, which resulted in your character Bingles
yeah.
dying. You've
God rest Bingles.
you've uh, you've got a new character introduced into the campaign,
Yeah.
now part of the party.
Yeah.
However, you had the opportunity to save Bingles. Do
Mhm.
not, I can't stress this enough, do not kill your players in, and in air quotes here, cutscenes. Do not
Yeah.
take power away from your players to prevent your player characters from dying.
Yeah.
I've
Exactly.
killed, in my time DMing, I think I've killed 4 player characters in total.
Yeah.
All of them could have been prevented.
Yeah, exactly. I think in my time of DMing, I've killed two, two player characters.
And I was one of them.
I think you were both. I believe you were both. Yeah. So there was Thordak, your paladin,
Yep.
who
And yes, I did steal that from Critical Role. Leave me alone.
yeah. Your paladin of vengeance, I believe it was,
Yes.
who tried to fight a god 1v1, but
Yep.
god cheated
Yep.
because he's a god. He doesn't have to do what you say. And the other one, okay, I didn't kill your character. You pulled all of the cards from the deck of many things. And that's Greg.
Greg's still alive. We just need to find his parts. That's
he's,
all.
he's somewhere, yeah. But yeah, so what happened to my dwarven cleric was we were in a council with dragons because that's part of that module. I think I'm
Mhm.
saying that I've never read the module myself, but yeah, we were having a dialogue option. Like in Mass Effect, I guess
Aha.
we have dialogue options. Um, Apparently, I chose the wrong one because the silver dragon really doesn't like dwarves, so I got thrown off a cliff.
But that that is unfair to the players. The DM taking control away from the players
Yeah,
is so DMs aren't like, oh, I am the god of this world. What I say goes. We as DMs are storytellers.
yeah.
We are narrators. That's all we are.
We're
We've
there
made we've
to
made
set
a
the
world.
scene.
Yeah, exactly. We're there to set the theme. We've made a world where you've got a story. We've got a start point and an end point. How the players get there is their choice. We are just the narrator. So when the player goes, I would like to do this, we explain what this does.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
taking that power away from a player
Hmm.
and just yeeting them off a cliff is not fair to the players. We're not playing when we're running D&D. It's not all about our fun.
Yeah.
We're trying to make it fun for everybody. So you as the DM,
Hmm.
you have to try and make sure that the other four, three, five, however many people you're playing for are also having fun.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. And that great segue there, Chris, brings me to another topic that I'd like to bring up with you because
Oh yes. What have you
you,
got? I didn't even realise I was segueing.
you and me are very different DMs.
Yes, we
Um,
are.
we DM in different styles.
Yes, we
Um,
do.
and what I'd like to maybe discuss with you is the difference in those DM styles and maybe even being a player for DMs under those styles. Right. I love combat in D&D. I think that's
Hmm.
where classes are like shine the most because
That's
you get
what
all these.
they're made for, really, isn't it?
Yeah, like your class. Don't get me wrong. I love role playing. I role play till my heart's content. But combat is one of the bigger things in, especially in fifth edition. I've not looked at other editions. I've looked at Starfinder, which is Pathfinder, but I think it's based on 3.5.
Hmm.
But fifth edition like classes seem to be, to me, more so the original core classes,
Yeah,
um, and core archetypes that were in the player's handbook seem to be more focused around combat. And I love combat.
yeah.
Now, you run combat in a way that I enjoy. I like the way it's set up. It feels very tactical. It makes me think.
But that's
I,
that's that's how I try and run combat because I don't want it like, okay, here's my line of players, here's my line
yeah,
of
you
bad
just,
guys. I try and run it in the sense of these bad guys are
mhm,
living, breathing creatures in this world.
yeah,
This fight is just as much about their survival as it is about the players. They are going to try and pick off the weakest.
exactly, yeah. Which,
They're going to try and and isolate and go from there,
yeah,
which has worked, as we've seen. Bingles is dead,
yeah, God rest Bingles.
but as
um,
you were, I'm sorry to interrupt.
no, no, it's fine. Whereas I run combat, this might sound silly, so I run combat as if it was like a movie scene,
Yeah,
because that's the way it plays out in my head. I try to be very descriptive around like what's happening. I ask the players to describe how they're doing things,
yes.
and I think that is for honestly my own selfish
I
reasons. I want to visualize it in my head,
as
you know.
much as that is for your selfish reasons,
Hmm.
I like that because that
Right.
is again giving power to the players
Yeah.
for them to have fun and explain how they think their spell works. So, um, yesterday, for example,
Hmm.
for those who don't know, we are currently on making a class, and we're currently in the play testing stage of it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a shaman. So the way I pictured the shaman putting his totems down, my spellcasting focus is a spirit pipe.
Yeah.
So I pictured him having him put three totems down. I pictured the him putting the pipes down for the totems.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just said that, like, oh, he summoned the totem out of the ground,
Yeah.
that's not how I would have envisioned it happening. So you're giving, again, the players the power to explain how they think their spells work,
Yeah.
which then makes it fun for them because they have more control over what their characters doing, if that makes sense.
Exactly, yeah. And I feel the way I run it, so like I get them to describe it and then I expand on it. So obviously that
Yes.
I like it. I think the reason why I do it that way is so you can explain what's happening, and I can take it from the other player's perspective and be like, this is what you're seeing.
Yeah.
So so backstory. I say backstory. Game I'm running. The party of it's supposed to be a party of four. Unfortunately, the cleric wasn't there,
Yes.
so we had a party of three, and they encountered a city that was a mimic. The entire
The
city
whole
was a mimic.
city.
Was just one big mimic or a house hunter, but a city hunter. So I rearranged the stats for myself, my personal. Yeah, I gave it more health, basically.
Slapped in
um,
some homebrew.
yeah. And Twen, what is he? He's
Is a
a
hobgoblin paladin fighter barbarian.
yeah, the fight Barbadin. He got the killing blow, so I had him explain exactly, the Matt Mercer effect, I guess, of how do you want to do this.
Yes.
I had him explain it, but then that was from his point of view, and then I said, "So what you guys see to the other two members of the party?" And I went into this whole anime-esque thing of the way that the entire city
Yeah,
just
yeah.
blew up.
Your explanation on that was like 5 minutes long, my guy. It was
Yeah,
great.
but yeah, so like I say, I do that for basically just trying to set a scene and let that sort of thing play out
Hmm.
as um a movie scene,
Yes.
sort of thing. And I just like the way that is. I feel like it helps make it fluid. However, where I excel in that, I really lack tacticality
Yeah.
in the way enemies function. I'm like, okay, they're gonna go over here and they're gonna do this really cool thing. It's gonna look cool, but it might not make too much sense.
Yeah. So
Whereas flipping the script,
I am the
you would
complete
come.
opposite. So I do very little to no combat explanation.
Mhm.
Not that I don't want to, but
You do
I
let your players describe how they're doing things,
I
though,
do
which
let
is
my players describe how they're doing things, but when it comes to me expanding on it or me explaining
mhm,
how the or how the attack missed or how the attack hit,
mm,
I really struggle, and that's because I've said this to you, but I have this thing called aphantasia, which
yeah,
means I can't picture things in my head, and
yeah,
because I have no mental image, I struggle to describe things that I haven't seen. So because I
yeah,
haven't seen it, I can't describe it.
yeah,
However, where I lack in that department, I'm very tactical in combat. So the party of four
mhm,
is you, the wizard, the fighter, and the
uh,
barbarian.
yes,
Got got into a fight. You were Bingles at the time. This is
yes, that's
pre Bingles' death.
yeah. I
You
was
got
playing an artificer.
Yes, you got into a fight with a beholder,
Mhm.
and the beholder charmed the barbarian.
Oh no, yeah, Mr. Fluffy hit hard.
Mr. Fluffy, who is the hardest hitter and the biggest tank in the party.
Yeah,
So the beholder charmed them,
yeah,
which then takes the most health and the most damage away from the party.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then I continue to let the player play their character. What
Mhm.
would Mr. Fluffy do in this situation? They now are friends with the beholder, they are trying to protect the beholder, and they went for who they deemed was the weakest, which was
It was
Bingles.
Yeah, which was my little gnome artificer, and oh boy, so we were level 5, I believe, at this point.
Yes. There was you four, and you'd brought an NPC with you. You brought an NPC from the fighter's backstory to tag along.
Yes, yes. And Mr. Fluffy took my health down from max to about 10, and I have quite high constitution, so
Oh, I'm pretty sure Mr. Fluffy actually knocked you unconscious at one point.
yes, yes, Mr. Fluffy did knock us unconscious. Mr. Fluffy is a whole story for a whole other day. It's actually quite a genius character, but um,
But
yeah,
and then it's the same with the way Bingles died. You
mhm,
were in the middle of a brawl. I say a brawl. It
mhm,
was essentially a battle in the middle of the city streets.
yeah,
Um, you'd been playing on the bad guy's side.
mhm,
You flipped over onto the
yeah,
resistance. You were like, right, now's the time to show our cards,
yeah,
and there's not a better time to attack than there is now.
yeah,
One of the main guy, the main bad guy, one of his two geezers who he's always with
yeah,
came out.
yeah.
He's
So it's
got
like
into a he's got into a fight
pseudo
with
big
them.
bad. Yeah,
Yeah, they're almost a big bad.
yeah,
He's got into a fight with them. They managed to get Bingles down,
mhm,
and while Bingles was down, they took an extra hit. And that
yeah,
extra hit is all it took, because then you only had one chance,
exactly, yeah,
and you failed it, and Bingles died.
yeah. Well, unfortunately, Bingals perished, but that like again, there was lots of tactical elements to how that bad guy was fighting. So I would have never had him go, you know what, I'm going to make my way over to them because I think it was about 120 feet away at
It
first.
was. It was.
Um,
Just kept using catapult. He kept
he
making the save, so he wasn't taking damage, but he couldn't
kept
move.
stopping. Yeah, it's just quite hilarious. However, at that point, he was like, right, I've had enough. I've got a little bit of magic. And he started popping us with magic from a
Yeah.
range. Um,
He didn't have a
and
lot. He didn't have a lot of magic,
no,
and the little bit that he did have, he
mhm,
utilized to stop you keeping him at a distance, that he could close the gap. Because
yeah,
he's not really a magic user. He's a fighter.
yeah,
So if he can close that gap and get in, that's where his strength is. That's where the party really suffered.
yeah. Um, but again, like me personally, I would never have thought to go. I use magic. I can't move, so use magic. I would have been like, I would have fully let the players set up how they wanted to do it,
Yeah.
which in retrospect, I much preferred the way that you ran that combat. Um, sorry, it sounds like I'm sucking your dick here, but um, it's just I think the tactic as a player, I
Mhm.
would prefer. I prefer that tactical. I think the
Yeah.
best comparison is you run combat like it's a real time strategy game. I run combat like it's uh I don't know, Dynasty Warriors or something.
Hack and slash.
Yeah, like a hack and slash, like everything's gonna be cool and flashy, and you're gonna
So
do cool stuff.
I grew up on Age of Empires.
Yeah.
I love RTS games. So the tactic side
Mhm.
I love, and like I say, it really gets the players thinking, because
Yeah.
then if the bad guys are being tactical, they can't just, oh, I'm going to drop a fireball on this group of bad guys, because the bad guys have spread out enough that you're wasting a spell. Because if there's 10 bad guys, you'll get maybe two.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
definitely.
they're trying to like separate and divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Because like I say, I see my my bad guys are my
Mhm.
characters, so
Yeah.
it's about my survival as it for me as it is as much yours.
Yeah, definitely. Um,
So if I want my big bad guy to be a feasible threat, he's
mhm.
not going to stand in one spot and let you just beat on him. He's going to he's going to be conniving. He's going to have things set up to where if he's going to have fail safes, or oh no, this I'm losing here, I'm going to teleport.
Yeah,
I'll regroup, I'll come back, and I'll hit harder.
yeah, definitely, which is really cool, and you embody those characters, whereas I see it more as a scene.
Yeah,
Um, you know, but both sides of the coin have
of course.
merit
Like
to it.
every way of DMing is a valid way of DMing. So
As
like,
long as you're having fun, that's
yeah,
all that
because
matters.
I love the way you DM.
Mm,
So I may not be able to picture what's happening,
yeah,
but I love the effort that's going into explaining it. I love the explanations
yeah,
of how Twen caused a city to collapse in on itself.
yeah.
So
And
like uh, all of that stuff. I love the mindless, senseless Dynasty Warriors hack and slash when I'm a player.
yeah. Whereas I love the RTS and tactical when I'm a player, I just can't run it that way. But again, as long as you're having fun and as
Exactly.
long as
We were talking about another DM here
yeah.
about
But
the way they run the game,
yeah,
which
so when it came down to it, combat felt like it was thrown in there because we done like 6 sessions without any combat,
yes,
you know, and I as a player like a good mix. Now, I as a DM prefer to have a balance of what's going on as long as it fits.
yeah,
So NPCs and encounters and interactions like that,
hmm
I think speaking as a DM, you don't have to do voices or anything like that to make a DM to make an NPC memorable. Or what it's got to be is circumstance and mannerisms
yeah,
and the conversation that the players have with them. Now, I have been in that situation where I have been three NPCs and I do voices. I like to do voices. Some accents aren't great, some are, mediocre.
yes,
Um, and it gets frustrating. So I learned as a DM the best way to do those sorts of encounters is just have one NPC, but don't be the NPC that knows everything.
yeah.
That-
So like
Yeah.
I very rarely do voices for NPCs.
Mhm.
I love doing them for characters when I'm playing,
Yeah,
but I've only got so many voices I can do. I'm not a
yeah,
voice actor.
yeah,
So
same.
so I try and save me voices for if I give them to an NPC, it's for the very, very important NPCs.
Yeah, but
So like me big bad guy, he's got a slightly different voice
yeah,
because he's important. But when it comes down to and you're having NPCs, you have an
mhm,
NPC that knows everything.
yeah,
What's the point in having players?
exactly. And what they're just gonna go, what's this? What's this? What's this? And you don't want that. Like, it's I don't know. I think that's where some DMs may fall short. I know it's
Yes.
DM that we've had in the past that has fell a bit short with that of like this NPC, namely a king. Go speak to the king. They know the answers. Sort of thing. Kings won't know jack.
Well,
Like,
in mine, the only reason you've gotten to speak to kings is
uh
because one was in the middle of an invasion
yeah,
and you ran away into the keep where the king
yeah,
was. One
yeah.
was you managed to convince the guards to let you in
Mhm.
after explaining to them that there's a very feasible threat on the way.
Yeah.
And even
Um,
then, the kings didn't know who you were talking about. They were like, what?
who? What are you on about? Whereas some DMs may fall into this I guess, trope of speak to the king. They know what to do, sort of thing. Whereas I envision it of like kings are there to rule the country, yes,
Yes,
but they have advisors. They have people to
yes,
talk to
yes. They have
before you make
strategists and all
decisions.
that type of stuff. They have,
Yeah,
yeah, but it's like. You need the thing I don't like about the whole "Oh, go speak to the king"
Yeah,
is who are you really?
yeah,
Who
yeah.
are you? Who is your character?
Uh-huh. Like,
Look at the party that we've we've got now. We have a 4-year-old trapped in a teddy bear.
yep, Mr. Fluffy.
We have a former gang member.
Uh-huh.
We have a former thief,
Yep,
criminal, also a gang member.
yep.
And we have a wizard who's just left home for the first time in his experience in the world. What king in their right mind is going to look at these 4 people and go, "Yeah, let them in. I'll have a chat with them."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Kings would maybe want to speak to you at level 20 when you've saved the world and you're the like,
You've got renown behind you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas now
You're
you're
level 6.
yeah,
Like,
you're level 6.
you're
Who are you really? You're in the
you're
middle.
alright in a scrap, I guess.
You've pulled yourself into a war.
Yeah,
The only reason you're in with the king, like I say, the royalty now is you stopped one war,
yeah,
you uh, have caught a traitor,
yeah,
and you're currently working on getting them, the kings, the
yeah.
royalty, to speak to the other kings to
To,
get
like,
them to have a meeting because the other kings wouldn't give a fuck who the hell Shen is and what Shen's got to say.
yeah. And, honestly, in fairness, Shen, my monk, um, she doesn't care what Shen has to say. So,
Exactly.
why would a king care?
But yes, with this DM, so they were DMing for 8 people, but they did have a lot of ex machinas. There is they had a player who knew a character who knew everything.
Mhm,
There was no sense of urgency.
mhm.
They were always like, "Oh, you need to do this by this amount of time." But
Yeah,
if you didn't, then it was no biggie because
yeah,
your players were safe. Your characters were never going to die.
yeah. And
I
it,
mean, I missed the final battle,
yeah,
but I let people fucking Jaeger me or whatever it's called.
yeah.
And
Pilot.
from what pilot, yeah, from what
Yeah,
I've heard, they didn't even try and attack me at all during this,
I'm,
like
I'm
the final battle. I think I got paralyzed and that was it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be truthfully now. This we're not just sitting and trashing on this DM because there were some points in the game that
Oh yeah,
I
there's
thought,
some moments in that were absolutely hilarious.
yeah, and it was overall story wise. When I sit back and I look at it, the story made sense and I had fun, and that's the main thing. We're just being nitpicky because I'm gonna dive into myself as a DM and like nitpick myself.
Hmm.
Um, However, that combat, that whole final battle, um, I remember two things from it. So I was a wizard, okay, level 20 wizard. It was brilliant. We broke the rules a little bit. I cast Tensor's transformation on myself whilst wearing plate armor and had a great sword. So I made myself into a fighter,
Hmm.
and then I was able to cast invulnerability on myself. Lasts for 10 minutes. You are invincible,
Yeah,
immune to everything, and obviously, honestly, it was very clever. I got through down a hole and fell about 500 feet. I
yeah,
was invincible, so I didn't die, but that was me out of the fight for a bit. The only other thing I remember is the druid, level 20 druid. So you can expect Circle of the Moon. You can expect just swapping in and out of monsters, smacking, swapping out.
yeah.
That thing.
Can do it
That
an
is
infinite number of times. They've got infinite hit points basically.
yeah. Classes are broken, but again, that's a topic for a different time.
Yes.
um, I don't remember much of that combat, and I don't remember much of anything that happened after that combat. It was the end of the campaign. It was the big bad evil. I believe it was Tiamat, but in a different setting, sort of thing. And yeah, that is unfortunately just how that turned out, and it was for a big bad evil guy fight, especially at level 20, because there's so much stuff your players are going to do at level 20. But for a big bad evil guy fight, it wasn't memorable. Now, I'll be honest, I've not done a big bad evil guy fight before or since as a DM or as a player.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess for whenever we get to a big bad evil guy, my expectations are a little lower than what I'd like them to be because, again, as a DM, I like to set it up as this big scene. I mean, you fought an entire city.
Yes.
Like,
There's
not a city with people in, I mean, like, the actual city
yes.
itself.
The walls of the city.
Yeah,
So my issue was I wasn't there for the BBEG, so I've got no comment on that.
yeah,
But it was, and DMs out there, please don't do this. Player favoritism.
yeah.
You cannot convince me in
Mhm.
the time that I was in that campaign that they did not favour their partner.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's something that tends to. I mean, it gets brought up all over like D&D horror stories,
Yes.
and it is sad to see because, I mean,
I,
so
in our campaigns, because
mhm,
we're playing the same party, my fiance is in it, your fiance is in it.
yes, yeah,
Granted, in your campaign, your fiance was in
one session.
one session, which was meant to be a one shot.
Yeah, she
But
is.
I
Wicked.
actively try
Mhm,
to not favour my partner. I'm actively trying not to. There might be times where I have,
yeah,
but
uh,
I'm not doing it intentionally. I'm actively trying to be like,
mhm,
no, I'm not giving you that.
yeah. No,
If you know what I mean.
yeah, that is fair. So like I say, it's all over D and
It
D,
is unlike
and unfortunately, I get it. It can happen because you love that person and you want them to have fun. As silly as it sounds, above everyone else, and unfortunately, it makes the experience for your other players less enjoyable.
yeah. I can
Uh,
understand maybe like giving them a fancy magical item, but
yeah,
when you've got like characters role playing and the character building and they're really getting into it,
yeah,
and then that other player interrupts and says, I want to do this thing, and then you
I-
focus on that, and then they
yeah.
get something at the end of it,
Uh,
is
and
really demoralizing for the people who are role playing,
yeah,
especially if those people who role play are new to the game and aren't people
yeah,
who role play often.
exactly. Yeah. Um, Now, uh, with that, obviously, without going into like a whole D&D horror story, because it's not really a D&D horror story. It's just more of again a critical analysis of it.
It's an annoyance, like I say, there
Yeah,
were times in that campaign where I really had fun.
yeah,
I met my fiance through that campaign. Like
exactly. Yeah.
there are
Mhm.
there is a lot of good with that campaign.
Yeah, there is.
There
But
is also just unfortunately
some
some
bad
bad
stuff
that's come
with it.
with it, and the bad is the thing that always sticks.
Yeah, when you have negatives and um positives, unfortunately, people tend to remember the negatives a little bit more. And I think the way it was handled when it was brought up, because I am a firm believer in if you are not having fun and you are struggling with the issues that are happening in the campaign, you need to bring it up with your DM. As a
Yes,
DM, I need people to come up to me and tell me if I've done something wrong or said something that's upset them.
yes. I stated at the start of every campaign, if you have an issue, tell me. If you don't want to tell me in front of people, pull me
Mhm.
aside, inbox me, message me, Discord
Yeah,
me, DM me, however you can get contact with us. You let me know, and if I can,
yeah,
I will change it. it's with another
Yeah,
player, then I'll speak to that player. But
yeah,
like,
but like,
let the
come on.
DM know. If you're
Yeah,
not having
exactly.
fun, don't sit there and continue to not have fun for however many hours a week.
Yeah, and DMs, I can't stress this enough. Don't have a hissy fit. Now the DM that I brought it up to didn't. They actually handled it quite well. And they did explain, obviously, some things to me and had the other player um be a bit more open about their character, which isn't what I wanted, but it did help put things into perspective.
Uh-huh.
Granted, I was the one that was said to be the one complaining about everything when I wasn't. I wasn't the only one that had these issues. I just took it upon myself to bring it to them. As a DM, don't have a hissy fit. Sit down with that player or the party and discuss the issue. Speak to it. Say like, right, this is being brought to my attention, or to that other player. Go, how should we fix it? Work with your players. At the end of the day, unless you're off doing DMing for money, which again, a topic that I would love to discuss with you, but
Thank
um,
one for another day, methinks.
yeah, um, you're sitting with friends and you should be able to talk to your friends about how you're feeling. Like,
Exactly.
if I had an issue with the way you're in the game, I'm going to go, Chris, you know what? I don't like this. What can we do to fix it? And I'd sit there with you as
Yeah.
the player, you know?
And I'd
Or
I'd try
hmm
to rectify whatever that issue is if possible.
yeah,
If it's another player, I'll mention it to the player outside of D&D
yeah,
so that I'm not doing it in front of three other people.
yeah,
I'll not name drop. I'll not be like, "Oh, Adam said this about you."
exactly. Yeah, just be like, look, I've had an issue.
Never name drop. Just say somebody's come up to me and said, and
Yeah,
they've said the way
yeah,
you such and such.
yeah,
If
because
it's something I'm doing in game, if it's something I'm doing, I'll try to
yeah,
not do that. I'll try and like wean it out. Which one thing I did at the start of this campaign is I gave
mhm,
everybody a sheet to fill out
yeah,
to of what it's
what,
like a consent sheet basically. So it's like it's a traffic light system: green, yellow, red.
mhm. Green,
What
you're happy with. Red,
red? No,
don't
no.
want to see.
And
Um,
it's just a checklist. Are you happy with
yeah,
players having sex? Like player
yeah,
characters having sex? Yes, maybe. If it fades to
yeah,
black, no. Are you happy with torture or gore or
yeah,
spiders, that type of stuff? So then
yeah,
I've got four checklists I can constantly refer back to be like, okay,
yeah,
everybody's okay with this, or one person's a little iffy on this, so I'll not go into detail, or I've got one person this is a no, so I'm not going to go anywhere near this. I'm not going to refer to this. I'm not going to touch upon it.
exactly. It's not needed. At the end of the day, as a DM, um, your, I guess, job, first of all, have fun. Make sure your players are having fun. Make sure fun is being had at your table. Second of all, make sure everyone's happy
Yes,
with the game. Obviously, outside life, that's for outside life to discuss. When you're just sitting and playing a game, at the end of the day, it's a game.
it's 4 hours
Yeah,
of you escaping the real world.
you're in a fantasy world. You can do what you want.
You can be who you want.
Yeah, you know.
It's not there for you to
Yeah,
go, yeah, well, the other three players enjoy this, so why aren't you?
yeah, exactly.
The other three players can enjoy this without that. And
Yeah,
then all four players can enjoy it. I was watching a TikTok,
hmm
and this is where I got the content for my idea from.
yeah.
And I believe his TikTok name is Mr. Kurt Wise. He's the dancing bard.
Ah, brilliant. Love that guy.
He was talking about, and he said, "So I've looked at this when my
Mhm.
players have handed it back in, and to me, it's not I can't do this. It's I can do this." So
exactly.
he's not looking at what people are saying no to and what he can't use. He's looking at what people have said yes to and what he can use,
Yeah,
which is a massive difference.
yeah.
And it's a great outlook to have on that, because then it's like you can look at it. Thankfully, our party's quite laid back, and I don't think anybody's put anything in the red.
No, we did put one thing in the red, and that was real world religion, because real world religion
Yes, has no
we
place.
in D&D, where we have pantheons and pantheons of gods.
Yes, I
Uh,
agree. That was the
yeah,
only thing that went into the red. But
yeah, where we're like, we don't want to see that. Like, we don't need
but I
it.
could look at it and say, if somebody had put, I don't want gore in the red, and put
Yeah,
that in the red, then I can look at something else. Yeah.
yeah,
How can I explain a murder scene without going into the gore? I'll explain the scene around it, how disheveled it is, how the books have been pulled off the bookshelves and thrown across the floor,
yeah,
how you could blatantly see there was a struggle.
yeah. You use it, as silly as it sounds, you use that to your advantage. Like it, as a DM, I feel it. I mean, granted, I didn't give a consent sheet, but I'm just using the ones you asked because I feel like you would have filled it out exactly how we would have.
Oh man, I've got like no lines.
Yeah. So like it flex those DM muscles, man. You're the one running the game, and people are enjoying it, coming back to that table because they enjoy it. Flex
Exactly.
those.
Unless you're running from a module, it's
Yeah.
your world,
Uh huh.
it's your story,
Yeah.
and if you can't think of a different way to describe something like a murder scene, other than
Then
going into how gory it is and making possibly your players uncomfortable if they're not okay
yeah.
with gore,
Don't do it.
don't do it.
Yeah. Don't have the murder
Just say
scene.
it
Come up
was,
with
or
something else.
just say it was a murder scene,
Yeah. It's a
and
murder scene.
it looked pretty bad.
Yeah. It was.
But
It,
there are ways around it. You can use it, like you say, you can use it as an advantage to open up other avenues of
yeah.
world building. What? Why is the place dishevelled? How did they fight back, or was it a burglary gone wrong?
Yeah. Exactly. It gives you that agency
You
to.
you need to plant and sow the seeds.
Yeah. Now that you said plant, however, it's made me think of another word, plan. So, um, I would like to get into one more topic with you
Yep. One
because
more topic. This will be our last one
yeah, last
for
one
this
for
episode.
this week. Yeah. um, I would like to know your process of planning a session as a DM because I feel like you and me have very different styles of DMing, but I have a feeling the way we plan a session is um somewhat similar in the sense of because obviously we're close friends,
Yeah,
we know how each other works.
yeah.
Um so how is it that you go into planning your next session?
So when this campaign first started,
Mm,
I would spend a night on the couch with the laptop open,
yeah,
notepad open, and I would write plot points. I'd write, okay, the bad guy can do this. They can go to this city where such and such will happen, or this. They can go find this item, and they have to figure out what this item is.
yeah,
Um, Maybe this place has a beholder underneath it,
yeah,
and then that's how I first started.
mm,
Now it's dropped off a lot.
yeah,
So now when I'm at work, an idea will pop into my head
hmm,
while I'm at work, and I'll expand on that idea, and hopefully I'll
yeah,
remember it
yeah,
when D&D comes around.
yeah,
Most of it now, to be completely honest, is very little planning.
hmm,
I'll maybe think of one word. So recently, the wizard of the party got sent a message through sending saying that they're required in a different country, different
yeah,
part of the world. That was a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah.
I wanted you guys to go back to the Uxbridge Buin Empire
Yeah.
for whatever reason that you don't know.
Hmm.
So I thought, how could I get them there? How could I make them want to go back? So I
Yeah.
sent this. Then on the halfway through the session while we were playing, I was like, I've figured it out. I'll send it at the right time. I'll
Yeah.
wait for the right moment, and then I'll say, Kaz, you have this voice in your head that explains.
Hmm.
It's not a voice you know,
Yeah.
but you do know enough about the spell sending to know that they must at least know of you.
Yeah.
And then from there, now you've got a bit of sense of urgency. Do we stay where we are and continue trying to fight with
Hmm.
the resistance?
Yeah.
Or do we go back to this place where we prevented a war from getting really bad and
Yeah.
see what
Like,
they need?
what's going on, sort of thing.
But
Yeah.
majority of it now, honestly, I sit behind the DM screen. I let
Hmm.
you guys do what you guys do, and then
Yeah.
an idea will come to me, and I'll be like, I can save that, and I'll use that at a later date, or I'll use that a bit later on.
Yeah.
So
No.
most of it now is just, to be honest, I'd say 98% of my planning is improvisation at the table, used
Yeah.
from what the players do.
What the players do. Yeah. See, I get that. I am very similar in that sense. On the first campaign that I ran, I wrote it all down. I wrote everything that I had, like plot points, hooks, exactly what should happen, what will the players do. Like tried to prepare for
Yeah,
every single scenario. Over time, it got less and less, so I stopped. Eventually, I believe towards the last couple of sessions, I stopped bringing my binder, which had all my notes and things in. Um, Now I write one shots every now and then. I'll come up with an idea and write a one shot. Um, so the one shot that started this campaign, I say campaign. It's more like a mini campaign, you know.
a mini series.
Yeah, a mini series. I wrote that one shot, The Rise of Honky Amat, which is the five-headed goose.
Yep.
Once we saw a picture and I originally had the idea. So I wrote out the whole one shot. One shots are easy to write. You
Yeah,
have a
you need like
few, like,
3, 4 interactions.
yeah, and that's it. Um, I believe you told me the other day that a good session or a strong session or something that you read about a session
Yeah.
comes off 3 encounters.
3 encounters. It doesn't matter what the encounters are, as long as they are encounters. So the ones that I gave you is combat,
Yeah.
meeting an NPC,
Yep.
and something strange at the end of the road.
Yeah.
So the players are traveling a road they've traveled before,
Yeah.
and now there's a wizard's tower at the side of it that they've never seen before. That
Yeah.
counts as an encounter. So 3 of
Yeah.
them, meeting 3 wacky NPCs.
Yep.
3 combats, or a mix of the three. As long as
Yeah.
every session should be based off of 3 encounters. So
Yeah.
I've read.
Yeah. Which honestly, after the last session, tends to like really it makes a strong game, or a strong session.
Because then
Now,
you've got hot hooks, you've got uh, things to push
yeah,
the main story along. You've got side hooks such as, why is that wizard's tower there? I've never seen that before. Let's go have a look.
yeah. So, do you want to know how I came up with the last session and the sessions that I'm going to be doing moving forward?
I know you text your fiance just random shit, don't you? I know
Yeah,
the last time I remember you telling us, you said you text her saying Mimic City, ignore this.
yeah, exactly. That is what I do. So my fiance plays in my campaign, but she's very good at metagaming. That and she doesn't read my messages, so even better. um, it's one of those things of like I had obviously Greg died, so we're doing. I say died. Greg pulled all the cards from the deck of many things.
So his
Greg is
soul is no longer in his body, and his body is no longer where he was.
yes. So the party, I've coined this the search for Greg. Um,
Of
the party,
an obvious play on the search for grog.
yep. The party, um, are looking for Greg. You played Greg. So what
Yes.
it is, I went, right. You said I'm going to make this character, and I was like, cool. So we worked on it. And I was like, right, I've got an idea of how to bring your character in. I've got that message that I sent to my fiance, which was, a mimic. That's a city.
Yes.
Ignore this. And I was like, this is genius. I've got it. So, like, the approach I'm taking to this, I guess, campaign that I'm running now is I'm treating it, every session is like one shot. It's like an episode
Yeah.
in a TV series sort of thing. But like,
It is honestly a great way of looking at it.
yeah. So, and I used that three encounters sort of structure, albeit it was before you told me about it, but that's what I planned for. I planned for three encounters. I
Yeah.
had
We had,
meeting you
yep,
and the Wogs,
which
which are
was,
frog wolves.
yes,
Yep.
we had Jim.
Jim, the giant stone giant.
He just climbed out of the floor. We all thought we were about to die, and he just goes, "All right, I'm Jim."
What? My name's Jim.
And then
um,
obviously the city.
the the city that was a mimic you're exploring, then ended up being swallowed, and then the fight with the mimic city. So it was like a boss fight. So I guess my campaign is now going to be a boss rush. So, but um, so yeah, that's how I plan it. I send a single line to my partner, you, whoever, or I
Mhm.
write a single line down and I go, "Is my next session?"
So I always try to think of at least one thing for a session.
Yeah,
One important thing to push the campaign along.
yeah,
So the last one, it was sending the message to the wizard.
yeah,
Um, the one before that, it was going to the little village you're in now
mhm,
and trying to get rid of the guy who's in there. The guy who's currently running the village for the
yeah,
BBEG.
yeah.
Not all of my sessions have combat.
No,
I tend to vary. I try to do one without, one with, one without, one with. I never try and force combat. I only ever try and make
yeah,
combat fit in.
yeah,
So, like, I'm not just gonna go okay and then look random combat. So
yeah,
I've never really been one for road encounters. I always try and make the combat have meaning.
yeah. The
Um,
the combat needs to make sense,
yeah,
sort of thing.
and then a lot of the time I give the combat, put it down to a choice.
Hmm.
Again, going back to my prison break, you guys had the choice to break out of prison,
Yeah,
but you didn't. You agreed
yeah,
with the guy and avoided a prison riot.
yeah,
But so depending on where the players go, I try and find a plot hook on the
yeah,
route they're on that I can drop in at a certain point.
yeah. Definitely, and I feel like
So
that's a good way of planning your session and
yeah,
just let the players drive it, but make sure you've got something that they are driving
so
towards.
so one of the early ones I had when I stopped doing like proper planning and writing everything down
Yeah,
was I name dropped a city called Kongan.
yeah,
Meant nothing to three of you, but one of
yep,
the players, that's where their character's from.
exactly. Yeah, we knew that was where they're from.
So
Well,
then
they did.
so then that led into them being like, oh, I don't, oh, they're being really shady about it,
Yeah,
which then led the other characters to be, well, two of them, apart from Kaz, because his insight, my God.
yeah, pretty bad.
But then it led to the characters probing
Hmm.
and trying to figure out why Kongan's such a bad place.
Yeah, and it was like we extensively probed poor Demaya, our fighter, um, quite a lot. I mean, Bingles wasn't very trusting, but then she became very shady, so it created a nice party dynamic as well
Yeah,
as like personal goals for the party of like what they want to find out about each other. Um, and it helped drive us towards where we were going. So yeah, um, good little plot hook dropping things in like that.
but it's just that's what I do now is I'll go off where the party's going,
hmm
and I'll try and go what plot hook would make sense on this road that they're traveling.
Yeah, and I think that to me as a DM is the easiest way to plan.
Yes,
Like let the players do it. Make sure you have some form of, I guess, hook.
make make
Or
make if you're going to drop a hook,
mhm,
make sure you've got something there for them.
yeah,
So don't
exactly.
just go, okay, they're going here. I'm going to name drop Kongan. They need to go to. So for me, is where the plan was for you guys to go to a country called Bamibs.
Yep, the cold country of Bamibs.
And the quickest way to get to Bamibs was to
mm,
go through the capital city of the Uxbrid Empire,
yeah.
Kongan. And knowing that was the fastest way,
hmm
and then one of the players being like, no, 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 I don't want to go that way. One, it's creating plot hook and drama in the party because the party's like, well, why?
Yeah.
And two, I had something in Kongan for when he's got there.
hmm
That is where that character's backstory is.
Yeah.
He's managed to avoid it when you did eventually go through. And
Yeah.
then the
The
next time you went to
long
Kongan,
way
and
around.
then the next time you went to Kongan, it was under attack.
Yeah. And we had a lot to do then.
Speaking of planning, that is one thing I do, is I time the party.
Mm,
And if it takes the party so many in-game days to do something, the
yeah.
BBEG does something. So,
Ah.
so um, his last excursion before
Mm,
the resistance attacked in the city,
yeah.
he was pushing up north,
Right.
and he got right outside the capital because you guys weren't doing anything to intervene. So every couple of in-game days, I moved him forward in that advance.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I
Again, to create a sense of urgency, like this is a living, breathing world. He's not on camera, so he's not doing anything. He's doing stuff off camera. He's
yeah,
actively trying to
yeah,
proceed with his plan.
yeah,
So if the resistance hadn't attacked and you guys hadn't have joined them, he'd keep his march going.
yeah. Which is pretty cool. That actually makes me think of something. So I knew this guy who was running his own game, and in his game he had three warring countries.
Hmm.
So he asked people who weren't playing in his game, so me being one of them, to be like, if you were the leader of this country, and this is what's happening in the world, and like obviously you're at war with these, what would you do now? And he had these three people from outside of the game controlling these countries.
Here's the thing: I
Um,
know who you're on about because he asked me, and then never
yeah,
came to me for advice on what my country was doing.
he asked me about twice, so like it's a good idea. I just don't think he ever got to put it into practice all
Yeah.
that much. But like that to me, genius.
So,
Like,
so there's a DM, 'cause
mm,
that is great, and
yeah,
this is similar. There's a
hmm
DM called Matthew Colville,
yes, yes,
and a lot of my DM and stuff I learned from him from watching his
yeah,
videos on YouTube.
yeah,
And one thing he did is he had a player die,
hmm
like a player character die. I need to stop saying player because it's given the wrong idea.
yeah.
He
Play
had
character guy.
he had a player character die,
hmm
but instead of killing her off,
Yeah,
he made her the BBEG in his next campaign. So he would constantly go to her and be like, "This is what the party are doing. How do you want to respond?"
See,
So in between sessions,
mhm,
she's getting her input on what her character would do the
yeah,
party do, and what the party are doing.
yeah, it's genius, and
It
I
it
love
really adds life to the world.
it. Does it breathes that life into it? Like, if I was running a more fully fleshed out campaign, I think I'd probably look to doing that
Yeah,
myself because it's a very cool. I mean, I'm just running, silly, I guess, one shots.
yeah.
eh,
It's like a
Strung
sitcom.
together. Yeah, I'm running a sitcom campaign sort of thing, just so I can have a bit of play about with like being a DM again because it's been a while.
Yes.
Um,
That is one thing you've always said, is you
mm,
prefer being a player over a DM,
yes, yeah,
but recently, these last two sessions have made you enjoy DMing,
they have,
and
yeah,
I think it's really important that
mm,
you enjoy the party you're DMing for, because if you don't
yeah,
enjoy DMing for a party, you're not going to enjoy DMing.
yeah. You're going to struggle. So that leads back to the other thing of like players going to their DMs about things. DMs, if your party are not if you're not having fun, you need to talk to your party about it and say,
Yeah,
guys, look, I've been running this game. I'm not enjoying it. Like, something needs to happen, or can we swap out, or
yes.
something like that?
So
Because you,
that's what we're doing now. Is
yeah,
we've swapped to rotating weekly between me and you DMing.
yeah,
It's not that I wasn't enjoying it,
hmm,
but the last few weeks off, I've really enjoyed,
yeah, and
because doing it 4 hours every week, it can
yeah,
take a toll on you. And then if you're not enjoying it on top of the 4 hours every week,
yeah,
then it, why do it?
you're gonna get burnt out. You're gonna
Yes,
hate the
very
game,
quickly, very
and
quickly.
you're going to, as silly as it sounds, you're going to start resenting the people that you're playing with.
Yes.
Because you're like, why am I doing this? Because I'm not having fun. It's because you guys, because I'm doing it for you guys. And that's not the way you should look at it.
No, you should
Because
be doing it for you
uh-huh.
and then them. But
Yeah.
that
And
doesn't mean your fun comes first. But
yeah,
it also doesn't mean their fun comes first. It
yeah,
means you need to work together so that everybody is enjoying the game.
mhm, yeah,
And if you're not, for whatever reason, if or you're doing it too much, then swap out. Let somebody else have a turn. If there's nobody else who wants to play, then drop a week. Okay,
yeah,
guys, we're not doing D&D on this Sunday anymore. We're going to go to bi-weekly, so
yeah,
um, every second Sunday,
yeah,
D&D week off, D&D week off. I
yeah.
know.
Or
Again,
yeah,
speaking of Critical Role, I know that's what they're doing now. They've taken every third week off. Is it?
yeah, every third week of the month off or something along those lines. But we're even doing that on. I mean, we're not stopping D&D, but we're rotating. So like, you have a week off as a
Yeah.
DM. 'Cause
No,
being a
I'm
DM is
still.
hard work.
It is. It
Yeah,
is. It's exhausting, because
yeah,
it's like we've stated, we're running cities, we're running worlds, we're running
mhm,
NPCs. If you're playing the way playing, you're playing in the background of the game. You're doing stuff while actively trying to pick up on
yeah,
what the other players are doing.
yeah.
There's a
You're
lot to it, and if you've never DM'd before and you've been thinking about it, don't let this dissuade you. Give
yeah,
it a go. You
hmm,
will feel nervous. You're always going to feel nervous the first time, but just jump into it feet first. Get your world. Get just run a one shot.
yeah.
Most great campaigns start from a one shot.
Yeah, don't worry about building a world or building things like that first. What you want to do is you want to get some friends that want to play D&D, um, who will tend to be a bit more forgiving,
Yes.
because it's your first time. You just say, look, it's my first time. If I mess up, I'm sorry. We'll learn as we go. Get come up with an idea, plan out 3 encounters. They don't all have to be combat. Plan out, like you said, the wizard's tower, meeting people. hell, if it's your very first one, you can plan out the party meeting each other, then um, going to find something, and then a combat.
Yeah.
That gives you all three, and I think there should be more DMs in the world. And
Yes.
if
You you are going to feel very nervous your first time.
mhm,
I've taken months off and then come back and felt really nervous. I
yeah,
feel nervous every time we go to start playing. As soon as we start, as soon as I hit play
hmm
on my music, the nerves are gone
yeah,
because it's just as much nervous for your players as it is you. Because
yeah,
granted, everybody's watching you, but when it's
mhm,
the player's turn to speak, everybody's watching them.
yeah. At the end of the day, it's a game, and if we can help you feel a bit more confident to go out and play this game that so many people have loved long before me and Chris were even born, you know, do it. And I think you should definitely do it. That being said, I think that's all we have time for today.
Yes,
So
we are pushing the 130 mark.
yeah, if you have enjoyed today's episode, um,
It's the
please,
one
yeah, please look out for episode 2. We'll be coming back when that is out. I think we're going to be looking to do it
weekly, I believe.
yeah, on a weekly basis. So yeah, um,
Be
you can
sure
find
it
that.
if you've liked it, like it, share it amongst your friends,
Yeah,
subscribe to whatever platform you're listening to this on. Uh,
uh,
if you've got any feedback, any questions, leave a comment.
mhm,
We'll and we can answer the questions.
yep,
We can, if you give us a topic to talk about, we can talk about it. And if you've got any feedback, we'll take it to heart and we'll see what we can do
yeah,
from then on to make it more suited to how you enjoy.
yeah. This is first episode, so there was a lot of teething problems, and we do apologize, but we hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you next time.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.